Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Reality radio for a really great future. We're talking real money.
It is another Talking Real Money extravaganza. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Talking Real Money, the podcast. And joining you today on the podcast, the same people who join you every time on the podcast. I'm Don McDonald in the new Florida studio that's looking better all the time. And Tom in the plain old
No
Maltby studio.
No
Plain
pun
old.
intended. Okay, that's a good one. I hope you didn't spend all week writing that.
No, I didn't. That was a quick write. So we're glad you're here, and we're gonna try to talk about money and try to kind of knock some sense into some of you. Particularly, millennials are starting to get money now because they're older, right? They're getting older, and they're starting to get money. But it turns out millennials believe they're way too smart, way too savvy. They know everything there is to know about investing, so they don't need no stinking help from a financial advisor. No way, no how. They got this down, right, Tom?
Well, I mean, one of these people kind of does.
Yeah.
Well, because he's rejected the invitations from Goldman Sachs to become a client.
Okay, that was a good start.
Yeah,
reject those.
Good.
Yes.
He ignores the golf invitations, etc. By the way, the numbers it's kind of interesting for people under the age of 45 who have $500,000 or more, which is quite a bit of money actually to have under the age of 45. 70% of those either strongly or mostly self-direct their money. In other words, they're kind of do-it-yourself for 70%. That's up from 57% a decade ago. So that's quite a bit of an increase, of which,
Well, but this coincidentally, the past decade has been an extraordinary one for anybody, anywhere buying anything, including just bags of air.
yes,
Also
which
known as
apparently
cryptocurrencies.
still working for the moment, which might pop at any moment. Yeah, okay, which is, again, we're okay with do-it-yourselfers. We give you three funds at our website. We help people all the time, like, go do this on your own. And most people who are millennials don't think they need advice. Well, I got bad news because a couple of people they quote in this Wall Street Journal article, they really do need advice. One made a lot of money from a sale of a business. He decided to plug $1 million into a hedge fund. Really?
Mm-hmm.
He put another $1.5 million into building Airbnb rentals in low income areas. Okay, that's not exactly where I'd be putting my money.
Wait a minute. I'm thinking for a minute. I'm getting ready to go on my next vacation, and I think I want to take my next vacation in a poverty-stricken, dangerous place. That's where I want to go.
Yeah, you'll fit right in, I'm sure.
Yeah.
One person said, I'm talking to, frankly, a bunch of old men. Yeah, I get that. I know we're old compared to you. Okay, but let's just step back from a moment, putting age aside, and talk about who needs advice and what kind of advice and how to pay for that advice and how much to pay for it. Because who is a pretty interesting question. Now, I just said we do support people who are do-it-yourselfers, right? You've done this for 30-odd years, told people, go buy these funds, you'd be okay.
Not 40, by the way, as recent caller suggested. Not 40.
And by the way, somebody just asked me about what I thought of the Vanguard Target Date Retirement Fund 2065.
All I can think of that is, I'll be dead.
I was like, I hate to say this, but that will be like more than 100 years after my birth. But that's because, 2065. Anyway, here's the thing. Okay, you can go do this on your own. There's a lot. We're not the only people that give away advice. There's places where, like Paul Merriman's site, where you can get a 10 fund portfolio if you really want to spend the time on it. But I will say this. When I look at your portfolio, and even millennials send me their portfolios and say, what do you think? Generally, they have it kind of right. Not all the way. There's a lot of things that a good advisor is going to do a little bit better than you.
When they send you their portfolios, do they preface the letter with, "Dear
always.
Old guy"?
Oh, no, they always preface it with like, "I've listened to your podcast now for the last 2 years, and I follow what you guys say closely." And I always say,
"Dear old guy."
Yeah, well, that might be more appropriate, but I always say, and then I look at their portfolio, I say, which part of the podcast were you listening to? Must have been the part that I wasn't on and Don snuck in. Many of you, and I see this regularly, you're chasing hot returns. Oh, you're buying stocks that have been, maybe you jump back into Hertz in the last few days. You're jumping into hot things because they've been hot. That is a horrible way to invest. So even when it comes to the portfolio development, most people still need help. Then what about the type of help? Well, you could have a plan, you could have a portfolio, you could have a permanent. I go with the 3 Ps because the permanent is maybe the most important part. Don, you know this. People have a tendency to maybe start down the right track.
We're not talking about hair now, right?
No, I was going to work on that for a different show. But they start down the right track, but then they end up switching because this looks a lot better. This is more interesting to be in crypto than it is boring index funds. Or everybody knows you don't own bonds today because bonds aren't making anything. In fact, they've lost money. They have a tendency to get off the track a bit. And then the third part of all this, how do you pay people? Well, you can pay people to just write a plan for you. Oftentimes that's good enough. You can pay people, some, not very many, to work for you hourly. And then you can pay people the only way, I think, truly to get long-term advice that is fair, that is fiduciary only and involves no conflict of interest, and that is a fee-only 100% fiduciary advisor. Do most millennials need this who have 500,000? Absolutely. They should at least get a look, get an idea of where they are and not make any more mistakes because it's
particularly
important.
When they say things like one of the guys said in this article, the one who's dodging the Goldman Sachs advisors.
Yeah.
When he said that he's at a point in his life where he likes taking risk to get those potential double or triples. You know, he doesn't want just market type returns. He's too good for that. And here's a quote that I just adore. I just adore this quote. Most young people don't really care about the downside. They care about the upside and it being this fun thing.
Fun until
the downside actually happens. And then the fun will be over.
The fun is over. Sure, do it yourself, but make sure you're doing it right. I always think a second opinion makes sense for most people that even think they're doing the right thing. And please, please, please don't chase things that have been hot, whether they're Airbnbs in low income areas, whether they're hedge funds your friend told you about, or whether they're hot meme stocks, because that's where the real trouble begins.
Yeah, just remember what your mom or your dad told you, that it's all really fun and games until somebody gets hurt.
Exactly. Which
might will be you.
Well.
Yeah. In fact, it probably will be you. So, and that's the thing, Tom, is I can pretty much guarantee that every one of these people who's swaggering through the current market is going to get their comeuppance someday. And they're going to hate it. And then they're going to say, well, the world's not fair. Why didn't somebody tell me it could go down?
Here's another problem I see is people that have been successful, like the one person who had a good business, obviously, sold it, pocketed, I think he said $9 million. People have a tendency to believe because that was successful, that investing will be the same thing. They're way overconfident. Yeah. You could put a lot of money into Airbnbs, into hedge funds, and see a lot of it disappear very, very quickly. So don't be overconfident about that either, because you had success in one part of your life, maybe even a business, that will not necessarily translate over to being a good investor.
In fact, the reality is the silly stuff you're getting into will more than likely lose you money than make you money long term. So be very, very careful out there. And if you want to ask us questions, us old guys, the old guys of Wall Street, and there's a little something about age that you younger folks tend to forget.
Yeah.
You're all very intelligent. I mean, give you intelligence. My kids are intelligent. My grandkids are they're small, but they're intelligent. My grandkids, though, they don't know a darn thing about money, because they're little. Now, my kids don't know much about money because they're young. And I've been doing this for a heck of a long time. And I got that thing. What's that thing? Starts
Wisdom,
with a W.
experience.
Yeah, the W thing.
Mm-hmm.
You got a little W in our column. So pay attention to the old guys.
Been there, done that, seen it.
Been there, done that.
It's not different this time, et cetera, et cetera. So,
and actually owned the T-shirt before you bought it at the thrift store. And it was cool.
I hope you're not giving those away. Come on.
Actually,
they should be burned or something.
I did. I gave away a whole bunch of Don McDonald Show shirts.
Okay. Well, maybe with a free
855-935-TALK. Give us a call with your questions, or do like this person did and send it in to Talking Real Money. You ready?
Please.
Hi, I've got two separate questions. I don't. The correspondent does.
Writer.
First is, I'm thinking about doing a side hustle, the profits from which I'd like to save in a retirement account. Side hustle. But my spouse and I already maxed out our 401ks, 19.5 each, and our combined income is, why do you need a side hustle over 400K?
Well, wait, I make good money, but I have a side hustle, but it only pays me $2,000 a year. So what can you say?
Okay.
No.
Oh, you're talking about refereeing?
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, that's just your hobby that happens to pay you.
That's a serious side hustle. You never see me
it's
out
a
there.
hobby.
I hustle.
You like it, though. You do it
I
for
love
fun.
It. I do it for fun. I don't do it for the money. Yeah.
Is there any way to save this money pre-tax or in a Roth? No.
Not in a Roth. Although you could do the backdoor Roth.
Yeah, but it's not pre-tax.
No, there's no.
Then you can get it in a Roth.
I don't believe, by the way, you can do a 401k and a SEP IRA at the same time. I don't believe you can do that.
I don't know.
Because that those are two different businesses, right? You could be saving in the one you work at and then one you own. I don't think you can do both.
I don't know. I have no idea. Truly don't know. But anyway, he goes on to ask, or I could use the profit to pay the tax to convert existing 401 to Roth. That might not be a bad idea.
Can you get the money out of the 401?
If he can, yeah. I don't know. Although we're in a high federal tax bracket now, we pay no state income tax, and there's a high likelihood we will retire to a state with income tax. Oh, that's making the Roth look better.
Yeah. Did he give us their ages?
Young. Well, we know they're under 50 because they're only doing 19.5 to their 401ks.
So then, conversions would be great.
And he uses the term side hustle.
Yeah. Here's the thing about if you're making $400,000 a year, I'm not sure you're a great candidate for a Roth conversion. Remembering that any income you move over, and where's the 37% start now? I always forget where it's the brackets.
All right, you talk for a minute. I'm going to look up tax brackets.
I think they increased the number for 2022 recently as well, so it may have gone up. But the point is, you're going to be paying a very high income tax rate for moving that money from pre-tax to post-tax. The better strategy might be to wait until you quit working, then do it a little bit, start moving the money over then, because you're going to be paying it more like at 20% or 22. 22. And I always forget the brackets. But
okay,
the point is,
I got the brackets.
Okay, go ahead.
I got the brackets. He and his wife are in the 32% bracket.
What the highest is now 37,
and that's at $628,000 for a couple.
Which you could get to very quickly if you decided to start moving a bunch of money from your pre-tax to your post-tax. So, if you're already making over 4, you're just not a great candidate to do that. Again, you're young, so maybe you could do this after you quit full-time work, which maybe because you've apparently been a great saver and a good earner, that may be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and by the way, he's at 418. 850, that's where you creep into 35. So he's right on the cusp of 35.
Yeah.
Putting that extra Roth money in there would certainly put him into the 35 bracket.
And the idea of taking a third of what you wouldn't want to take it out of your 401k anyway, but paying a third of the money you're moving over to your Roth in income tax, that's just to me not a good idea. That's just a lot of money.
Painful.
It's a lot of money. I wouldn't
painful.
want to do that. So.
Well, thank you for your question. Thank you all for your questions. Thanks for sending them in. We're going through them. We're plugging through them, trying to get them done as fast as we can, but keep sending them in to talkingrealmoney.com or call them in at 855-935-TALK. And if you have a really complicated question, one that requires more than just the couple of minutes we have here on the podcast or the radio show, go to vestory.com, vestory.com. That is the home of a 100% fiduciary advisory firm that just coincidentally got started by Tom and I. Us. Wheezes people.
Wheezes?
Yeah, wheeze folks.
Be careful the way you say that.
I don't know. My mouth isn't working right. So go to vestory.com, set up an appointment, meet with one of our advisors. It's free for that first thing. And we won't pressure you to buy anything. There's no sales pitch, none of that stuff. So go check it out. Vestory.com, vestory.com. Let's go. We're done for this podcast.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Talking real money. We hope you realize that the information provided on Talking Real Money is for educational and hopefully enjoyable purposes only. Providing personalized financial planning or investing advice takes time, so please consult with a really good fee-only fiduciary investment, tax, or legal advisor. We know a good one. Investing must always involve risk. In other words, you can and probably will lose money at times. Also, as much as you want it, no one can accurately and consistently predict the future. So past performance doesn't tell you a darn thing about what the future will bring. Unlike many other programs that say something similar, Talking Real Money is not trying to get you to buy or sell any financial products or securities. Instead, the program is provided as a public service by Vestory, a fee-only registered investment advisor. Thanks for listening, and please visit talkingrealmoney.com for more information and disclosures. That should keep the lawyers happy.